everyone. It is Wednesday night, and that means it's time for our latest episode of Let's Talk Tikvah. For those of you who have never seen one of these episodes before, I say welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're giving me a chance. And to explain, if you're wondering what Tikvah means, it is simply the Aramaic word for hope. For those who are watching not for the first time, I thank you for coming back, and I say welcome back. Tonight's episode, I titled it God's Timing, and I have a couple of different things that I want to talk about tonight, and then we'll be singing as well. But I want to start by saying sometimes I really don't like God's timing. I don't know about you, but sometimes I really don't like God's timing. I would much prefer to do things in my time and in my way. I get tired of waiting, and I want things to happen right now, and then I force the issue, and it ends up blowing up in my face. Who knew? So when I say I get it. We all want things to happen in our time. We want things to happen exactly the way we planned for it. We want things to happen quickly. Especially in today's culture, there is no wait for it anymore. We want it right now, and if it's not right now, we're unhappy. But I've been doing a lot of reading in the Word this week, and I've really especially been in Genesis and Exodus, mostly Exodus, and the story of Moses. If you are not familiar with the story of Moses, I'm going to give you a quick run through just so you know what's happening. So there was a dude named Joseph who ended up in Egypt as a slave, and he worked his way up, and he ended up being Pharaoh's right-hand man. And then 430-ish years pass, and the Israelites, who all were part of Joseph's family, they all end up in Egypt, and they all become enslaved. And they are treated very poorly. The Pharaoh from before obviously is long dead. There's somebody else ruling now, and they see the Israelites as a threat because there are so many of them. And so they treat them as slaves. And even with the oppression, the Israelite people continue to have children. There are so many of them. And Pharaoh says, hey, we gotta stop this. Every baby boy you see needs to be killed. That is an Israelite baby, of course. And Moses' mother had him and knew he was special, and so decided to not kill him, obviously. But she did. He was getting to an age where people would know that he was alive, and so she hid him in the rushes by the river, and Pharaoh's daughter found Moses and decided to raise Moses as her own child. Then Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt by way of miracles that God performed. All bad for the Egyptians, but great for the Israelites. So that leads us to where we are. And in this story, what I was reading was Moses going up into Mount Sinai and getting the 10 Commandments from God, and communing with God, and finding the plan for God's people. And he was gone for 40 days. And during those 40 days, the people said, you know, what happened to this man Moses? Obviously, he's left us. He's not here for us anymore. We need to make our own gods and move on from here. And so Aaron, Moses' brother, who was put in charge of the Israelites, says, okay, let's do that. And he collects all the gold earrings from the people and melts it down and creates a calf, a golden calf. And the Israelites all celebrate and say, this is our God who led us out of Egypt. But it wasn't. Obviously, God was communing with Moses and putting together this plan, and had this plan in place. And the people didn't have the patience to wait 40 days. They might not have known that they were waiting 40 days, but they didn't have the patience to give God a chance to show his faithfulness. And so they created this god out of gold. God sent Moses back down. Moses got angry and Actually, he prayed for the people of Israel because God wanted to just annihilate them all and start over with Moses. And Moses said, no, look, these are your people. Let's forgive them. And so he comes down, he gets angry, breaks the stone tablets on the ground, and basically tells the people how wrong they were for giving up on God so easily and so quickly. And then he ends up going back up into the mountains. But a lot of people died from a plague because they had turned away from God so easily. Now you might be saying, Brittany, this is not a very encouraging story. Like, what is happening here? And I want to say, yeah, the Old Testament, before Jesus came and lived on the earth, grace wasn't the same then. You had to offer sacrifices and you had to do all of these things. But Jesus came. God sent Jesus to the earth so that he could die the sacrifice that we used to have to give. He was the living sacrifice. He was perfection on earth. And he shed his blood for us so that we don't have to jump through those hoops anymore. And instead, we can know that God is always here with us and for us. And he's not going to send a plague when we turn our backs on him. Instead, he chases us down. But the reason why I wanted to bring all of this up is, yes, God will always chase us down. He will always show his love to us even when we turn our backs on him and we turn away and we do our own thing. God still loves us. And because of Christ coming, God is able to have a personal relationship with us. And that to me is amazing. But it doesn't mean that we should do everything our own way. I, for one, am really good at jumping into things when I shouldn't. Even if it's an idea from God, I jump into it before the timing is right, and it ends up falling to pieces. And so what I want to tell you is, even though God's grace is sufficient, we still need to sit in his presence and wait for his timing. Because as much as something might be for us in the future, if we try to do it right now, we're going to fail. And the other part of that, what I want to tell you, is with the Israelites, God was putting together his plan with Moses. He was telling him exactly what was going to happen, and the people didn't trust God to follow through. That's what we're supposed to do. We are supposed to follow through with God. We're supposed to let him plan out our steps. It always ends up working out better when we let him take control. And in those times when we do get impatient, God hasn't worked the things in the future yet. He's working on them. But when we jump into something that's supposed to be a year down the road and we jump into it right now, he hasn't put the things in place that are supposed to be in place. Life is a process, and things don't just fall into place because we will it to. It's because God makes it happen. And so my encouragement to you is be patient. Let God's perfect timing be perfect. No matter how much you want to jump the gun, no matter how much you want to start right now, God has a plan for you. And he didn't plan it out by accident. He didn't forget about you in your waiting. He is making things happen right now that'll make it all fall into place at the right time. Give him a chance. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have stepped away from him, if you've turned away from him, if you have gotten angry with him, if you feel like there is nothing that could ever bring you back to him because you've stepped too far, those are all lies. God is with you. Even when you don't want him to be, even when you don't know he's with you, he is with you and he loves you. And his forgiveness is right there. All you have to do is ask for it. And that's one reason why I really like the song we're going to do tonight. Some of the words just really speak to my soul, and I hope they speak to your soul too. I'm going to attempt to play the intro. I've been practicing. But I think it's just a moment for us to sit and breathe in God's presence and know that he loves us and he will chase us down every single time. chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. I was your fool, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. You're going to hear lies about yourself. You're going to hear lies about God. We're going to want to believe those lies because it's easier to believe the negative about ourselves. It's easier to believe that there really isn't somebody out there for us who loves us no matter what. I wish it wasn't easier for us to believe that. It's kind of heartbreaking to think about it. But it really is. It's easier to believe that we are unlovable and that we are unloved. It's easier to believe that there is no God because when we believe the truth, when we realize that there is a God and that He loves us, then we start to realize that we have to start changing our lives to be the sons and daughters of God. Sons and daughters of God. Wow, I can't speak. We have to be willing to let God move in our lives and change us from the inside out. And it's not because God doesn't like who we are. It's because God made us to be so much more than what we are without Him. When we allow God to move in His timing, our life is going to line up so much better. I'm not saying it'll be perfect, because it won't. I've said that a bunch of times on here. But we're going to come against so many less obstacles. Impossible obstacles. When we have God in our life and when we allow Him to take control. His timing is perfect. And the obstacles that we will come against in His plan are what are going to help us become the people that He has called us to be. He doesn't automatically change our lives or our hearts when we invite Him into our life. It's a process. But He has a plan for us. And if we trust His timing and we trust His love, it'll go way easier for us in the long run. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, I thank You that You have a plan for each and every single one of us. I thank You that You love us enough, that Your grace is sufficient enough to call us Your sons and daughters. Lord, I want nothing more than to live the life You have for me. And I pray that for each person watching this, that each one of us would just continue to grab onto the plan that You have for us and realize the love that You have for us. And I pray that You would just continue to lead us and guide us and help us feel Your presence in every single moment. I pray for a great week ahead. I know we're midweek regular week, but between now and next Wednesday, Lord, I just pray that You continue to show Your love and give us Your presence, Lord. I thank You and I praise You, and I pray these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week for another episode of Let's Talk Tikvah.